When we think about cyber attacks, our minds usually jump to hackers in hoodies, right? Firewalls and complex code. But what if I told you the most common threat out there isn't aimed at your computer at all? It's aimed directly at your brain. This is the psychology of phishing, and it's a masterclass in deception that hacks our own human instincts. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. Phishing is so incredibly effective because it doesn't bother trying to break down your digital walls. Instead, it just walks right up to the front door and tricks you into letting it in. It plays on our most basic vulnerabilities, our trust, our fear, our desire to be helpful. It's not really a computer hack, it's a con game, and it's being played on a massive global scale. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to dive into the psychology that makes these scams so potent. Then, we'll shift gears and learn how to spot the phisher's lure in the wild. After that, we'll look at the seriously high cost of just one wrong click. And finally, we'll build your personal defense plan, step by step. All right, first things first, we have to understand how this whole thing works. So, for a minute, let's forget about bits and bytes. This is all about belief, behavior, and what makes us tick. Let's break down exactly why phishing is so dangerously effective. Here's the classic definition, but the two words you really need to focus on are masquerade and manipulate. It's all about impersonation. Attackers put on a digital costume, pretending to be your bank, maybe your boss, or even a delivery service, all to trick you into doing something you never normally do, like hand over a password or your credit card number. And this is the absolute key difference. A technical hack is like a burglar finding a flaw in the lock on your door. But social engineering, that's the burglar convincing you to unlock the door and let them right in. They aren't exploiting a flaw in the computer's operating system, they're exploiting a flaw in our human operating system. The computer is just the messenger, we are the target. Okay, now this is fascinating. You've probably seen a scam email with a glaring typo and thought to yourself, wow, how unprofessional. But what if that's actually part of the plan? Turns out it often is. Scammers sometimes use bad grammar as a filter. See, if you're sharp enough to spot the typo, you're probably too sharp to fall for the scam anyway. They are literally weeding you out to focus their energy on more vulnerable targets. It's kind of brilliant in a really evil way. So, now that we know the psychology they're using against us, let's build up our defenses. This next part is all about turning you from a potential target into a threat detector. It's about learning to spot the trap before you ever step foot in it. This really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the good news is, while these attackers are getting more and more clever, they almost always leave clues behind. And knowing what those clues are, that is your best line of defense. One of the biggest red flags for sure is an urgent or threatening tone. You know the ones. Your account will be suspended, or immediate action required. They're trying to create a sense of panic to override your critical thinking. Another classic is a mismatched link. Pro tip, always hover your mouse over a link before you click. The text might say yourbank.com, but the actual destination could be something way more sinister. In any of these cases, the action is always the same. Pause and verify the message through an official channel you trust. And make no mistake, this threat is always changing, always evolving. I mean, it started way back in the 90s with pretty simple scams to steal AOL passwords. Then it moved on to faking websites for eBay and banks. A little later, it became the #1 way to deliver ransomware. And today, attackers are using AI to write perfectly crafted, personalized emails that are harder than ever to spot. Learning to spot those red flags is so critical for one very simple reason. The stakes are incredibly high. A single moment of distraction, just one wrong click, can unleash an absolute cascade of devastating consequences. $4.88 million. Let that number sink in for a second. According to a recent IBM report, that's the average cost to a company from a single data breach that started with a phishing email. Not the total cost, the average damage from just one successful attack. And that cost? It's not just about the money that gets stolen, it's a huge ripple effect. Of course, you've got the direct financial losses, but then comes the massive damage to a company's reputation, which can erode customer trust for years. And on top of all that, organizations can get hit with enormous regulatory fines for not protecting data. And for us as individuals, the impact is just as severe and honestly a whole lot more personal. We're talking identity theft, where criminals open credit cards and take out loans in your name. They can drain your bank accounts in minutes. The damage to your credit score can take years and years to fix.
And we can't forget the immense emotional stress and that awful sense of violation that victims feel.
Okay, I know that all sounds pretty daunting, but here's the good news. You are not powerless in this fight. In fact, you're the most important part of the solution. So let's build a simple but really powerful defense plan to protect yourself. It really all boils down to these 4 critical steps. First, just build that habit of vigilance. Always pause and think before you click. Second, use strong, unique passwords for everything. A password manager makes this super easy. Third, and this is a big one, enable multi-factor authentication everywhere you can. And fourth, if you see something that looks suspicious, report it. Help protect others. Seriously, if you only do one thing after watching this, please make it this. Go enable multi-factor authentication, or MFA. It's your security superpower. It means that even if a phisher manages to steal your password, they still can't get into your account without that second piece of proof, usually a code from your phone. It just stops them cold. Ultimately, there's no single magic bullet here. Good security is all about having layers. Think of it like defending a castle. Your email provider's filters are the moat. Your own security awareness is the high wall. And those strong passwords and MFA, they're the guards at the gate. When they all work together, you become an incredibly difficult target to hit. At the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Phishing is a battle for your trust. Attackers are constantly trying to exploit it for their own gain. The question is, now that you know how the game is played, are you prepared to defend it?